Kind of want to make continuance of yesterday's little rant about who I actually am on the inside, because I actually talked to my partner about it last night, and just because it's an interesting thing, I like to talk to her about it. And as we're kind of talking, she's she's kind of going about, like, she doesn't see all this negativity I see, and the stuff I would point to, like, where I'm like, yeah, see, like, I'm not a good person because I do this, or I've done this, and everything. She's like, okay, so you had, a bad moment. Like, she's like, that's just normal. It doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes you a person. Not everyone is perfect 100% of the time. And so we kind of go forth, where we're like, okay, cool. Like, because for me, like, I want to get to the bottom of this type of stuff. And who better to do it with than your partner? So I'm like, okay, like, so I thought, I was like, if I was going to find 5 words to, describe myself, it was like, like, I'm very analytical, hyper analytical. It was like, I'm incredibly stubborn. I don't even remember all of them, but like, everything I had was either like an observational trait, or it was something that I saw as a negative. Like, I saw my stubbornness as a complete negative. I saw my over analyticalness as kind of a negative too. Because, like, yeah, sure, I see everything, I'm watching everything, I'm hyper perceptive, but like, all I'm doing is sitting there and just spinning myself up. And so when she looked on her side of it, and she was like, here's what I see. Her stuff was, she's like, you're very kind. Like, and she's kind of talking about, like, like the way I interact with people, because I make it a point to be positive and be kind to people. Because, like, for me, it's like, let's say I'm like, even something simple, like, I go to the store, I'm like super nice and polite to the cashier, overly nice and polite to the cashier, because I don't know how many times I've been berated by some fucking Karen in the store. That's not gonna move. I don't know how, I don't know how her day is going, and my mentality has always been, if I can be that one bit of positivity in that person's day, maybe that's positive, where you go, okay, you know what, I can do this. And she sees that as like a major kindness, and I never did. For me, I was like, no, like, that's just basic human behavior. To where we then got into the conversation of, that's not basic human behavior. And just stuff like that. Like, what we kind of realized, the first part we got to, multiple layers to this, is that one is that I don't see the positive value in who I am and what I do, because everything that I do, I treat as the bare minimum baseline. Like, bare minimum baseline, you should be trying to be a good person always. You should be trying to be kind to people always. You should be cognizant of your effect on people always. And so, like, and it's kind of a running theme for a lot of stuff in our relationship, where it's like, I go, this is the bare minimum, so this is where, I'm nothing special for doing this, when realistically, actual behavior bare minimum is here. But because I've gone, this is what it should be, this is where I operate at, I don't see myself as doing anything special, because I have created this ultra high standard for myself, and I'm just there at that standard. The next layer we realized is that, like, I have such a high standard, and I hold myself to such a high, like, level. Because I think I always, like, I always saw myself as tainted, as, you know, stained, dirty, unwanted, undesired. And, like, you know, so, like, and for as long as I've had memory, realistically, but especially in middle and high school, I always viewed myself as, I am, you know, I'm tainted. I had the black mark on me. And in my mind, everyone sees it and everyone knows it. Every time I meet someone, they immediately go, oh, okay, this dude's shit. And so in my brain, I need to work up above that. I need to, like, I need to earn my way from being shit to being, like, you know, to being neutral. And listen, I always saw myself as, like, you know, everyone can see it. When people first meet me, they go, okay, he's here. He's a -5 already. And that's not the fucking case. And saying it out loud now makes perfect sense. The problem is that on an emotional level, I never realized I felt that way. Which is where the next layer comes in, which is where it comes from. And it comes from my mom. It comes from the fact that my entire childhood, she was telling me that I was shit and I was worthless and I ruined her life and that I ruin everything I touch and all this type of stuff. Like, you know, I absolutely just fucking heartbreakingly horrible shit. And I had internalized that so much that it was just my identity, where it was like, yeah, no, I am shit. I am less than. I do ruin everything. So I need to work hard to overcome that and prove to people that I'm not that. The problem is that no one else knew that that's where I was supposed to be at. And so that was a whole level of things. Like, it was, you know, like, that was when it kind of just opened up a lot of stuff in my brain. Because, like, even she was telling me that, like, the first time I really, like, you know, like, interacted with her brothers and we really started to get to know each other, him and his girlfriend, you know, after I left her, like, dude, he's so kind. Like, he's so nice and so just, like, you know, yeah, like, you know, nothing but glowing things to say about me. And it's funny because I thought that they kind of treated me with, like, yeah, whatever, this is the dude that our sister's dating. Like, you know, I guess I saw myself as, like I felt that I hadn't yet earned my way up to neutral. And so that was the place I was operating from. Not knowing at the time, you know, that I was actually, I started out at that neutral thing where it's like, okay, let's see what this dude's about. And we're pleasantly surprised and impressed. Like, okay, no, this dude's actually really good. And that fucking complete gear shift there. And I'm still kind of processing that. And then, like, the other, like, side tangentially thing to this, that's not the right way to put that, but words. The other, like, kind of side part to this, too, is kind of we're talking about, like, you know, why I hold myself to a standard. Why I am this way. And what I kind of realized, because, like, she was talking about how, like, you know, like, the way she sees stuff, one thing she brought up about me is that, like, I'm very, like, I have my set of beliefs, I have my, you know, my things that I say I'm about, and I'm hyper-focused on those. Like, you know, it just, like, you know, I'm very big on, like, what my beliefs are, and I'm very big on adhering to them. Which which I was like, yeah. I mean, like, yeah, I'm a Satanist. You know, we have the 7 tenets. I try to live by those. To where we then went on the conversation of that's rare. And it was funny, because it kind of exposed a naiveness to me that still worked in my favor, but because what it basically came down to was that I've always operated under the assumption that in general people will, like, you know, they're close to what they say they are, and they fail that as soon as you put pressure on them. Like, if someone says, yeah, I'm a Christian, and I, follow the 10 Commandments, and it's like, yeah, sure, they do when it's nice and easy, but as soon as it's not nice and easy, then they falter and fail. Where my partner's like, no. Like, everybody distorts the faith and everything to them, and then when they fail, it's that much worse because they're not even adhering to the distorted version of it. Which, like, yeah, I always kind of understood that, like, yeah, no one lives by what they say they do, but I didn't, like, really comprehend the level of which that was. So definitely interesting there. And like, it's a weird naiveness that I didn't realize I had, because, like, I have a standard for myself, because, like, I do try to, like, follow the 7 tenets. I do try to, if I say I'm about something, I try to be about that thing. Am I perfect? No. Do I make mistakes? Yes. But I do try to, and, like, she said, yeah, but everybody just distorts the beliefs to them. And I'm like, no, I conform myself to the belief structure. And so it's kind of weird to think that, like, I am the satanic equivalent of a genuine good person who genuinely follows the Bible and the 10 Commandments and tries to follow the teachings of Jesus of being kind and, loving thy neighbor and all that stuff. And because, like, I never saw myself as being that serious about it. Because for me, it was like, well, yeah, sure, like, I hold that, but, like, I'm not getting out in the streets and fucking, getting hyper active like the actual, like, satanic temple, the actual core fucking structure. But yeah, it a whole bunch of stuff. And, like, I think it exposes. I already knew that I do hold myself to a higher standard, and that I do let that kind of consume me a little bit. Like, we will jokingly have the back and forth about bare minimum versus princess treatment. And I generally go like, no, like, I'm, my love is bare minimum. The way I love you is bare minimum. The way I, show you affection, the way I show you appreciation is bare minimum. Because to me, that should be the bare minimum. The bare minimum is, I should be worshiping my partner for the goddess that she is. And in turn, she worships me back. It is a very, like, we equivalently simp for each other. And it's awesome. But, like, I see that as the bare minimum. Like, you should want to love your partner like that. And it's nice to have a partner who I feel is worthy of that. Like, because it's reciprocated, because it's, it's mutual. It's not just me simping for her and her ignoring me. It's we're obsessed with each other. And so but for me, that was always bare minimum. And because that's the standard I created, and that's the standard I hold myself to. And so her criticism of it has always been, she's like, no, like, yes, it's awesome that you want to have that standard. She's like, but that's not the bare minimum. She's like, anywhere else, anyone else, that is you are way above the bare minimum. And so for her, it's like, I am, because I see that as the bare minimum, if I fall short of that, I'm incredibly hard on myself. And it's like, but since I'm actually above the bare minimum, it's like, in her brain, I'm still fucking absolute spades. Because, if I think the bare minimum is a 10, when the bare minimum is actually a 0, I drop down to 9 or 8, and I'm like, fuck, I'm failing, I'm lacking. And she, from the bare minimum of 0, is going, oh my god, he's a fucking 8 right now, this is insane. I don't know. It's something I understood, and it's something I don't even necessarily think that's going to change as much, because I do still believe that, that should be the bare minimum, and I'm going to act as if that's the bare minimum, because that's the type of love and affection that my partner deserves. And but it is nice to be cognizant of it, and to be able to logically know that I am overachieving compared to everybody else. And that's fine. That's totally fine. But I think the part that I really need to kind of learn to internalize and learn to understand is that I'm never starting from a negative. Especially when I meet new people, especially when I interact with people, I'm not coming in with an obstacle I have to overcome. I'm not coming in with a black mark and a bad reputation that needs to be atoned and accounted for. And that's going to be hard for me. Because like I said, that comes from a very deep point. That comes from a very painful point. But that, I need to internalize. I need to really let that sink in, because the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I can see all the interactions I've had with, especially new people, and I'm just like, oh, I really do act like I'm, I'm literally detrimental and worthless. I really do act like, I have to, I feel like mentally, my first interaction with people is, hey, sorry it's me, but I'll do my best to make you feel like you didn't get cheated out. And that's crazy work. That is actually kind of ridiculous. But that's what abuse will do to you. That's what, being told that you're, that not only are you just worthless, but you are detrimental to happiness your entire life. That's what that'll do to you. So that one's going to take some time. But understanding that is the first step. Like, knowledge is half the battle, and I have knowledge. The other half is extreme violence. And so we're going to have to commit some genocide on these on these negative feelings I have about myself. And it's alright. And it's going to be... I think it's probably going to take a little bit longer too, because I try naturally to not be an ultra boisterous, ultra cocky, arrogant person. It's in me. It's absolutely in there. I'm not, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. But I kind of work hard to diminish myself. And as I'm saying it, I'm realizing, because I'm so scared of looking like, I'm so scared of the idea of being an absolute piece of shit, who is also a cocky, arrogant, self-aggrandizing piece of shit. And so that, once again, because I view myself in the negative like that, because I view myself as already, I view myself already as a problem. It's like, oh, I need to, the last thing I want to do is be peacocking as the fucking problem. Okay. That, It is going to take a while to work through, I think. But we understand the first step. And find some self-worth. We're going to find some self-respect. And it might not go perfectly. I'm sure I'm going to stumble along the way in both directions. But through love, through perseverance, through stubbornness, we'll get through it. Self-care is health-care, right? I gotta fix this shit up. I really need to start my therapy appointments again. I need to see if I can get more appointments with them. Alright, well, let's get at it.